So hi, welcome to Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with
Eric from Mom Jeans.
and we have some questions to say about their new album, Bear Market. So congrats on that. By the way, how do you feel about the response to it so far?
The response polarizing, I think, is probably the right word. Don't get it twisted. I have no regrets. I'm super glad that we made it and that it's out there. But yeah, seeing, like making music is super wild because sometimes you think you know what people are going to think about it and then they don't think that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been
Mm.
our experience, but it hasn't been bad by any means. It's just been interesting.
So you
Good.
mentioned like you think you know what people are going to think, and then it's the opposite. So what were your expectations going into putting this out?
I think that's an interesting question because I think there's kind of, at least the way that we put out music, I think it's kind of like a two-phase process where we really try hard, like pretty hard, like not to think too much about like how it's going to be received or what people are going to think. And usually we don't really, that only comes in as like, I guess, like a marketing strategy, quote unquote, if you will. You can't really let what people think influence the art too much.
Mhm.
But I think that I don't know, like we hoped that people I think would understand why we did it a little bit more, or would be a little bit more interested in why we did bear market at all, or even why we did it the way that we did
Mhm.
do it. And that did not seem to be the case so far. People were just, it was very polarizing. Like I said, it was either, oh, this is awesome, I'm so glad you did this, or this is the worst thing that anybody has ever done to me in my entire life, and I'll never forgive you for it.
Yeah.
Shit.
So yeah, it's kind of like, it's interesting to see like how people got to that point. And I think, I mean, more than anything, you just hope that somebody's going to resonate with like the music that you make. And it's more so interesting knowing that some people have resonated with these songs before. So to, I think, like turn around and maybe have some people who really love the original versions of the songs, like truly detest and be upset about like the newer versions. Was just, it was funny, and it was also just like polarizing, like I said. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For sure.
Can we get into the little bit of like the why behind this project?
Totally, absolutely.
All right, let's dive in then.
I mean, the why. So I think that it's interesting because I think the like Mom Jeans and every band, like we exist in this kind of music industry that is changing very, very rapidly. And depending on how much y'all or anyone who follows this band may know about like our business and how we we kind of do things, like we have set ourselves up in a way where like we don't have very much passive income. It's kind of like, as long when you're doing stuff, like you're doing stuff and you're doing well, but when you're not, you're really not doing very much. And
Yeah.
we've been trying to think more about things that we could do just as a band, especially in this, post-COVID world, like trying to not always being able to just tour whenever you want to and play shows whenever you want to. Like what is something that we can do to, maybe generate a little bit of passive income for ourselves in terms of, streaming or whatever. And I think that we've reached the point as a band where we've been around long enough where more than a couple of people are like, hey, I'd love to hear an acoustic version of this
Mm.
song. Or like, I've played solo sets before, and we've had people get sick and break guitars, and we've had to do acoustic sets before. And so I think
Mhm.
there, especially with this style of music, there's definitely a leaning towards wanting to hear the acoustic rendition of the original song. And so we kind of were like, well, it almost seemed like a no-brainer. And with more than a little bit of advice from, like our management and advice people that we pay to give us advice, they were like, this isn't a bad idea, just all the top songs and whatever. And but I feel like that's kind of a slippery slope at the same time, as far as just, like, I don't know, our job is to be musicians and to like try and make art. And I think you have to try and make something that has a narrative and like actually means something. You can't just like try to print money, because that's like not how, like people aren't stupid. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Our fans aren't stupid. Like they would see through that in a second.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so what we really hoped to accomplish with Bear Market, I guess, was to try and do try and do something that visibly was a lot more effort and a lot more intent and a lot more time and a lot more love than just, all right, here's, me and Austin sit down with the acoustic guitar and I
Mhm.
sing the songs and he does. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that that hasn't been done well
Mhm.
by people before, but it didn't feel like us. I don't personally enjoy performing that way a ton. I like playing with my band. I like playing with music with my
Yeah.
friends. That's why this band exists, And so if I really wanted to go into the studio with a guitar and spend a week doing all this, I would have done that 6 years ago. And I would start a solo project or do something if I wanted to do that. So bear market for us, like we saw an opportunity to challenge ourselves and actually be like, hey, let's not just like quote unquote take the easy way out. Let's try and actually make something that can almost stand alone as
Mhm.
its own kind of release and its own kind of record. And, in a perfect world, maybe some people will like these versions as much as they like the old versions. And like the old versions aren't going anywhere. We're not changing. We don't, we've never changed or planned on changing the way that we play the songs live. This is just like another flavor. And it's like, if we got to spend, 2 months in the studio making an acoustic album, we might as well make it fun and we might as well make it sound cool. We might as well, quote unquote, like remix
Mhm.
our own songs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I still think that that like makes sense. We still think that that makes sense. And I guess, we also realized that like through kind of the release process of like bear market and stuff, it wasn't always necessarily super obvious or like transparent, like what we were trying to accomplish. Like that wasn't always
Mhm.
necessarily translated to people in the most direct or um yeah, just like clear way. So it's easy to see like maybe why people don't know that or don't understand that or even haven't heard that sentiment from any one of us
Mhm.
um before. But yeah, that was what we thought. And as a result, like we did accomplish that goal. We had a lot of fun making
Yeah.
that album. We got to nerd out and we just got to like try a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily get to try when you're making like the next LP
Mhm.
and you're
Mhm.
trying to do like the next serious thing. And like, does this tone fit into, the landscape of everything that we've done up to this point in this album that we're writing? Like, does this lyric and no, dude, like let's like have one song be like a never shout, never worship with like
Mhm.
blown out fake drums and auto tune. And
Yep.
let's have another song sound like freaking Mumford and Sons, where Austin's doing the boom ka like drum beat. Like, let's have a couple of songs be just what maybe people are expecting to hear. Just be a pretty straightforward acoustic rendition of the song. And it doesn't have to make sense necessarily. It's just it's acoustic. That was
Mhm.
the only thing is like the acoustic approach to making an album and using acoustic guitars as kind of like the guiding light for doing everything.
Gotcha.
But yeah,
Yeah, you used the word fun while you were
yeah,
describing like the why, and it definitely is fun. Like obviously, like from the
Mhm.
outside, it is an acoustic record. You listen to it, and it is basically that is the shell of it. But it is
Yeah.
with the Mom Jeans flair, which is
Yep.
fun, and
Mhm.
that's what I got listening to it. I was part of the holy shit, what the fuck did this band do the first time I listened to it? I'm not going to lie, but I gave it another listen today, knowing that we were going to be talking about it, and I'm like,
Mhm.
wait. I judged just one just a little bit too soon because it's just like it's just fun. Like it's just fun to listen to.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
that. We're all entitled to our knee-jerk reactions that
Yeah.
we have,
Mhm.
so I don't fault you for that at all.
Hell yeah.
Mhm. Hell yeah. So, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Oh, totally. So the cover art less so, but the name definitely. This band originated in like Berkeley, California, because Austin and I were both students at like UC Berkeley. And we started hanging out a lot our first year because we somehow, by the powers that be, we ended up on the same floor in the dorms. That's how we met each other. He was into skateboarding and like smoking weed and video games and jazz band. And I was like, okay, this guy's cool. I want to be friends with him.
Fuck yeah.
Um, but there was a, you have dining commons around a lot of like university campuses and stuff. And they're kind of littered all over like downtown Berkeley.
Mhm.
And you'll have a bunch of places off campus where you can go and you can use your meal points that your parents pay for to buy, stuff. And they had this almost like it was like a school like version of like a 7-Eleven in the middle of one of the residential like complexes. And that 7-Eleven was called Bear Market. And Austin and I, for the first year of being friends and hanging out, would our nightly routine would be to like play Grand Theft Auto 5 for a little while and then like listen to Joyce Manor and Stories So Far. And then we'd go for a walk and smoke a joint. And then we'd raid the bear market, spend all of our meal points on like ice cream and snacks, full freshman 15 style,
Mhm.
and then just go home and pass out and try to get up for our 8 a.m. classes the next day, usually unsuccessfully, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when it came time to figure out what we were going to call this album, again, kind of what I mentioned before, like the why, we wanted the name and the presentation to honor the fact that we felt that this was kind of more than just your run of the mill acoustic like record. Like we really tried to make it its own thing and be its own project. And at least for us and the way that we made it and spent time and like compartmentalized our schedules, like it really felt like its own thing.
Mm.
And so calling it that, it almost felt like going back to our roots and kind of like reimagining, wow, like look at where this band was, 6 years ago, like 8 years ago, and how some of
Mhm.
these songs have developed in that time and how we still enjoy playing them. And like, man, what would I do now if you like showed me that same riff from 8 years ago,
Mhm.
but like we were trying to write a song with it now? Like what would we do?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that like we tried to tap into that little version of nostalgia for ourselves and even just this band, which was a really fun space to be in because and not sound corny, but it's like I really do love my friends very, very much. And I really do love the guys that I'm in this band with very, very, very much. And so
Mhm.
anytime that we get to spend just like bouncing off of each other and like really even having a reason to come together and to work hard and to focus and to like try to give the best of ourselves for each other is always a very gratifying experience. And to me, that felt very similar to how this band started. And it felt very similar to like the way that I did when I was that age, when I was in college, getting stoned and going to Bear Market with Austin. And so that was just why it seemed kind of, I realize now, we also used to make, we made like skate videos, like in college, like we did like bad, like skate videos off of like people's phone and edit them all together and stuff.
Of
And
course.
those were called Bear Market. There was a series and it was just called Bear Market 1, Bear Market 2, Bear Market 3. And
Mhm.
I think if you look it up, you can go on YouTube and you can find Bear Market 4.
Okay.
And there's clips of like Austin and I like skating at freaking like Town Park in Oakland and just like skating around the UC Berkeley campus and like just getting clips during summer school because we were bored out of our minds. Uh,
Nice.
but
Nice.
yeah, so that's where the name comes from.
Hmm.
And then the photo, that was actually our managers suggested that we use that photo for the cover of Bear Market. The back cover of us eating hot dogs is the one that I wanted because that's us eating at Top Dog in Berkeley, which is just
Nice.
like a local food spot that's like a haunt that everybody goes to if you're a student there. It's a legendary spot in the East Bay. And but yeah, it was funny. They were just like, yeah, you guys are just like stuffing your faces full of hot dogs and just like, I don't know if it's like you guys should look good. You guys should look professional. And we're like, okay. And we had done this photo shoot, trying to just put promo material together with one of our main photographers. His name's Cody.
Mhm.
And we just like had that photo and it looked cool and like we don't look like we hate each other, which is usually just like the bare minimum
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
like we need to be able to use a photo. um but yeah, and it was, I think for us, at least when it comes to album covers, I always want to stick with photos. That's just like a
Yeah.
personal thing, and more specifically like photos of us.
Yeah.
I think that that's something that I hope this band always maintains. I think that there's something Um, it may sound corny, it may sound like overcooked as a thought, but I think that Mom Jeans as a band to some degree has never really been about reinventing the wheel or like creating anything like particularly new or groundbreaking. I think at least for me, like Mom Jeans has really been an experiment in just like radical vulnerability with myself and with the people that I am friends with and the people that I want to connect with. Like, this is who I am. These are the things that I like.
Mhm.
This is what I'm about. I'm not going to pretend to care about the shit that doesn't interest me and that I'm not about because I just don't have that in me.
Yeah.
And I think in a way, the photos are kind of like a reflection of that. Like we're never gonna like have to make we're never gonna have to create an album cover or album art out of nothing because it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Because what you're gonna hear at the end of the day, in one way or another, like has already been done, and that's
Mm.
and that's okay because like that's what these guys do. That's what you're getting. You know what you know what you're getting into
Mhm.
when Mom Jean shows up. It's just like it's these four fucking dudes, and they do what they've always been doing.
Yeah.
And I think that to me, there's almost like a kind of transparency in that we're like, you're not going to see this big, crazy, like insanely drawn or designed, like ridiculous album art, and then you're gonna
Yeah.
like listen to a band that's like singing about like his like mom and dad's divorce or like being scared that his dog's gonna die or being like
Mhm.
mad that like his friendship ended. Like
Mhm.
I always wanted to be a little bit transparent and a little bit what you see is what you get with this band. And so I think that doing our album covers that way and, consequently doing the bear market art that way still holds true in that sense.
Yeah. It fits.
Sure. Yeah. And I think it's funny that your team draws the line at you guys eating hot dogs as cover art, but is okay with just bare ass on your
Right?
last record. Like that's just kind of crazy to me. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine.
Hey, I pick my battles and
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a
Gotta
point,
fight
yeah.
for the ass cheeks, not for the
I
hot
ask the
dogs.
questions that I need to ask. Well,
Yeah.
I was the butt cheeks were only really difficult when it came to doing some social media stuff. We realized that we couldn't have the album art be our like profile picture on Instagram. We couldn't have it be
Oh.
our cover photo on
Mm.
Facebook because they're like, nah, dude, this is straight up like bare ass. Like we have policies
We
against
have
this.
rules,
Yeah.
man.
And so it
Yeah.
was so funny. Then I remember the day that Sweet Tooth came out, actually, like Joel, he's one of our managers and he's our creative director, does all of our art. Like, he had to scramble and make like a pixelated version of like every version of like the story sized rectangle and the square and all
Mhm.
the social media stuff. He had to go back and do that and like at like the 11th hour, and
God
it
damn.
was hilarious because none of the socials were updating, and Twitter wasn't letting us make it our cover photo, and Facebook wasn't letting it make us our cover photo, and Instagram wasn't letting it make us our profile photo. It was really funny.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh my
That's great.
God.
Um, so can you talk a little bit about the process of like taking these songs and turning them into the acoustic versions that you hear on this record now?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I definitely felt I'll be real, like I felt a little bit insecure about trying to strip down some of these songs, at least like really, really hard and really make them really, really bare.
Mhm.
Um, just because, at least for me personally, like that's not what I intended to accomplish, like with these songs. In the first place, and that's why I say like is we don't do very many acoustic sets or very many acoustic performances because that's just like that was never the point
Yeah.
for me, like to do that. And so kind of knowing that uh at the very least can kind of I felt like I took a baseline of like where am I comfortable to be able to feel like there's enough else going on around me that it's not so hyper focused in on my vocals and not so hyper focused in on like what my guitar might be doing or like
Mm.
and again like giving us the space to breathe and bounce off of each other the way that a band does in their recordings. And I think that we just wanted to really I don't know, like try everything that we possibly could. I think that it's interesting too because like the way that we made Sweet Tooth and the way that we wrote Sweet Tooth I think informed a lot of that. I think that, you know, Sweet Tooth was our first time really writing collaboratively as a band. In the past, generally, it was myself and Austin doing a lot of the heavy lifting and other people kind of figuring out a part here, a part there, ultimately being told what to play and then just having to implement that. And writing Sweet Tooth with like four songwriters in the room
Mhm.
all the time and like trying to make sure that all four songwriters are happy with what's going on in every section of every song was challenging. And we had to learn how to do that. And what for us, what that usually involves is just like turning over every stone, trying every tempo, trying every feel, trying every, possible tuning, trying every variation of the chord progression. And we never got to do that with any of these songs before. And while obviously like the structures of most of these songs from Best Buds and Puppy Love and Sweet Tooth were already written, you can't really mess with them too much. Thinking about, maybe changing the tempo or changing the feel or, adding a section here or taking away a section here. Again, kind of what I said, like what would these songs sound like if you showed them to me now for the first time? If you showed me this riff or if you showed me this chord progression, like what would I be naturally inclined to
Mm.
do with it? Because I now have 6 to 8 years more musical experience that I didn't have when I was 21 and we made Best Buds. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so I think like leading with that, like what doesn't the original recording do? And
Mhm.
now that I'm saying it out loud, honestly, I'm like, man, it kind of makes sense maybe why people are a little like shocked by Bear Market is because like we actually at a lot of points tried to do the exact opposite of what the original recording like accomplished.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh, you did a third on the harmony here. Well, like you were gonna do a fifth, or like we did
Yeah.
a halftime here. Well, like we're not gonna do a halftime there. We're gonna completely kind of flip the script. Or like, was this song really kind of on the heavy side? Well, like what if it was like really chill and kind of like stripped back and stuff like that? And I think that that was really fun and really exciting and really challenging. And we got, I think we also we have a bad habit of being like really big fans of music.
Mhm.
So it's like once we stumble upon something that we like, it's like I really just want to hear that now. I really
Yeah,
just
me
want to do
too.
like, oh, like, dude, like I heard you do this riff like over that riff, like, and you did it for 2 seconds at the end of practice, but I can't stop thinking about that, and like that's how it is to me now. And it was almost like feeding that impulse and
Mhm.
letting each other just go off on those tangents was very fun because we got to utilize a lot of the things that we learned from Sweet Tooth, but we also didn't have some of the same restrictions that we had from making Sweet Tooth 2, or it was like we didn't have to take things too seriously because we always had in the back of our mind, well, if they don't like this, they can always just go listen to the original song. Like the original song's not going anywhere. And
Exactly.
I guess, yeah, we felt that there was more to gain by doing something different with the song than there was to gain by just doing the exact same thing.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
Um, since this project gave you guys such an opportunity to kind of just like be free and do kind of whatever you wanted with the songs, um, are there plans to do this kind of style in the future? Like maybe when you've got another handful of records out, you come back and you do this again, because not only does it give you guys the freedom, it's also like you guys are finding ways to supplement income that isn't just going out on tour or just doing another fucking merch drop.
Mm.
Exactly. I think that's a really good question. I don't know if I'm qualified to answer that on behalf of everybody
Mhm.
because we haven't thought about that yet. I think that not that we're scarred from, putting out Bear Market or anything, but we would be doing ourselves a disservice as people who make music and as people who are trying to run a business if we weren't aware of the fact that like it wasn't necessarily smooth, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And trying to learn something like we could be bitter and we could be like, oh, everybody like you guys are so terrible. Like we spent $20,000 making this album and all you had was complaints, and we could be really upset and we could throw that back in people's faces, but I don't think there's anything to gain from from that on either end. Like people are entitled to their opinion. Like we could have just not put anything out and then
Yeah.
nobody would have anything to complain about, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think we tried something and it didn't really go the way that everybody hoped it would in the best case scenario. And that's okay. And that doesn't stop anybody. That happens every day in the music industry. Every day
Mhm.
somebody takes an L and everybody learns a lesson and everybody moves forward. And I think that, so taking all of those things into consideration, I don't think we're jumping at the opportunity to like, it's not like bear market was such a huge success that now we have to do that to
Gotta
all
follow
of
up
the remaining,
again.
Yeah, the whole catalog.
you don't like, yeah, I think I can comfortably say don't expect a bear market V2 like anytime in the near future.
Yeah.
But it's also a reflection of the fact that like we chose to spend the extra time and we chose to put the extra effort in because that's what we wanted as a band. And now seeing how everything played out, like with any other decision that you have to make, it's just like, was it worth the effort? Was it worth the time? Like,
Yeah.
did I get out of this what I put into it? And that is hard to say, and only time will tell, because also if you know much about mom jeans, like we tend to be a bit of a slow burn whenever we put out music. Like people have a lot of complaints whenever we release something. And then usually 6 to 8 months later, we start hearing from a handful of people that like it, that are enjoying it. And I'm conscientious of that. And I'm not going to take it personally if people aren't immediately hopping on our music saying it's the best thing they've ever heard the day that it comes out. Um, I wouldn't be opposed to doing something like this in the future. Like I said earlier, I think that all of us too, like we're all capable musicians and we're all capable songwriters in our own right. So we have the resources and the ability to go and record our own music with other projects. Sam has Just Friends, Bart has Graduating Life, Austin makes his own music, Sam also makes, his own other side project. Everybody has stuff going on. So whether or not we feel like we're really brimming to like try and get all this stuff up is not necessarily the case. And I think it would be more likely that you would see more music from Bart and more music from Sam and more music from Austin coming out in the near future. I think is probably more realistic. um but yeah, I think that yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
All right.
I think
Yeah.
the point with my question was not like bear market V2 because we had just, we opened the interview talking about the very polarizing,
No, true.
But more so just like you're talking so much about the freedom and the enjoyment and the like closeness that this brought for you guys. And I didn't know like, some sort of project where it's just like, there's a record and then there is the alternate to the record, which is you guys fucking around and having fun and whatever that may be, whether it's acoustic, fucking EDM, I don't know. Like,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I can speak to that, and I can say like Porque no los dos, like why not have both? And that's really what we're trying to tap into now. Like I don't want to choose anymore. Like I think that's more talking about Sweet Tooth, right? I think that Sweet Tooth was definitely like, again, it was like a conscious choice to like try and accomplish a goal, which was do something sonically that perhaps was potentially a little bit more radio friendly, that was potentially had, a wider reach for a wider audience, that, was trying to follow in the footsteps of the Weezers of the world and the Blink 182s of the world, the Green Days of Fall Out Boys, like the people who achieved a lot of commercial success while still making objectively alternative music. And we saw how that went, and we saw how we had to do things and how we had to operate as a business for that to be the case. And we also like that's been cool and that's been fun. And we also are the same people that we always were, that when we made Best Buds and we thought that it was funny to put a Bob's Burger sample on one of our songs, like like currently the band has a very strong desire to kind of tap back into some of the less serious and more fun having aspects of writing music. And I think that I had the privilege when I was 19, 20, writing the songs that ended up being Best Buds and ended up being Puppy Love. I had the privilege of like not really having to worry about whether or not there are any drawbacks to doing that. I didn't really care. And if I did think that there were, yeah, if I did think there were going to be drawbacks, I was like, I didn't care. I think this is cool. I think this is funny. And people who also
Mhm.
think that this is cool and funny will latch on to it. And I will make real, genuine friends because those people will actually like the stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's, I think it's hard to completely eliminate the fact that like whether or not your record is quote unquote good or quote unquote taken seriously, like will impact how much money you make, will impact how many tickets you sell to your next tour, like will impact how much exposure you get. At the same time, everything comes at a cost. And like, I think that we've been consciously willing to sacrifice like certain aspects of like trying to have fun and trying to be really not take things too seriously and try to like white knuckle onto the aspects of this band that really made us fall in love with music and in the first place. But at the same time it can go both ways, and we're just trying to strike that balance right now as a band. So I think that I hope that, to answer your question more succinctly, I hope that in the near future, as Mom Jeans develops and as we keep writing music, there won't be the need for two different versions of
Mhm.
anything.
Hmm.
Like the one version will be enough, and like
Gotcha.
you'll get the whole story in the one recording of the song,
Gotcha.
which
So
I think could be exciting.
I guess that taps into what we were going to discuss a little bit later, which is new music.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, you want to get into that a little bit,
Talk a
talk as
little bit
much as
about
you
it.
can about what you guys may or may not be working on right now, and maybe it just bleeds into what you were just talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, what am I allowed to say? Um I think I can say we've been writing, and that's really cool. That's really exciting. To provide some context, Mom Jeans is a band that historically has always had a really hard time. And I don't even know why I'm saying Mom Jeans. Like me, I've had a hard time songwriting when we're on tour,
Mm.
when we have other things going on in the pipeline. And Mom Jeans historically has always been a band that is like touring a lot
Mhm.
and doing a lot and has a lot of irons in the fire because that's just how we like to operate. And so, with the Best Buds album cycle and with the Puppy Love album cycle, like nothing really got written until somebody told me that I had to like sit down and like finish writing something.
Mhm.
Best Buds just happened to be like the first 10 songs that we actually wrote. Puppy Love happened to be the next 10 songs that we wrote. And with Sweet Tooth, I think that, we were lucky with Sweet Tooth because, well, I mean, not lucky that COVID happened. Obviously, nobody's lucky that COVID happened, but
Mhm.
it was fortuitous in the sense that we really needed time to
Mm.
not be doing anything else
Yeah.
to hone in and learn how to write songs as a four-piece band with four songwriters. And the freedom that our schedules had when COVID happened really allowed us to do that. So, again, like we didn't need to learn how to be able to write like while we were doing things. We would kind of fall into these patterns of like, oh, well, now we have this next, 6 months of time off. So I guess we should really, bear down and finish writing this record. And for the first time in this band's history, we've been like writing music like while we're on tour. We're like jamming during sound check, and like we went to Australia recently with Frank Turner and the Sleeping Souls. It was super fun. It was a really great trip.
Nice.
Only downside of that trip was we were traveling together with
Mhm.
them, so we ended up going to the venue at their load time
Hmm.
every
Oh.
day, which if you're not the headliner, you need to be there hours after the headliner because there's nothing for us to do because they need to do all their stuff first.
Yeah.
And so most of this like 16-day trip to Australia and New Zealand, we would have about 3 or 4 hours to ourselves, like together in the green room with nothing to do and like nowhere to go really. So we would just like jam and like started writing songs. And I think we wrote like 2 or 3 demos just on that trip alone. And like Austin and Bart and Sam have all been on a tear. Like I get a demo in my inbox like probably once a week of something that's better than the last thing that they
Mhm.
sent me, which is really, really cool, and really fun and exciting. So that doesn't really shed too much light on what it actually may sound like, I realize, but
That's
from a
okay.
vibes perspective, it's
Vibes.
The
fantastic.
vibes are there.
Oh yeah,
The
I didn't
vibes are
expect you to get into
there.
the sonics of it, because like that might give up too much. But whatever you're
I don't
comfortable
think
with.
it will. I mean, I think I can get the point across without revealing too much. I think it's no secret like where our original influences as a band coming from. Like I've said it before, I'll say it again. Modern Baseball is my favorite band, always will be.
Mhm.
Like the Joyce Manners of the world, the Tiger's Jaws of the world,
Yeah.
Title Fight. We could sit here for hours, right? I could just like go on of like all the amazing bands. Like we had a habit, whether it was intentional or not, when we first started making music together, of like really wearing those influences on our
Mhm.
sleeve. Sam and I talk about it sometimes, and I think it comes from jazz band. And like when you're in jazz band and you're learning how to improvise, there's standards in jazz, which are songs that everybody knows how to play. Everybody
Mhm.
knows the melody. Everybody knows the chord progression. And like when we were in high school and you were doing your solo at the jazz festival, like you'd get extra points for like playing a melody from like a jazz standard or something, and like showing that that this is the same chord progression, and doing these little nods to those that came before you. And nobody shied away from that. That isn't seen as like ripping things off. Like that's you paying homage. That's you honoring those
Yeah.
that came before you. And I think that while we've never lost that aspect um of music, like from a songwriting perspective, I think that like sonically we've definitely, I mean, clearly with Sweet Tooth, like got a little bit away from like the Midwest emo world,
Mhm.
got a little bit away from the Scrams world, got a little bit away from the Twinkly world, like took a big step towards big choruses, big production, big drums,
Yeah.
like pitch correction on vocals and stuff like that. Like it was shocking for a lot of people, and not everybody's into that. And we did it because that's what we wanted to do, and we wanted to hear what it sounded like when we tried
Yeah.
to do that, and it was fun doing it. But there's also a very big part of all four of us that misses uh I miss the riffs. I miss the twinkles. I miss the crazy Austin drum solos. I miss like I feel like as a songwriter, I've proven that I can write a good chorus. I've proven that I can write a good song. I've proven that I can write a nursery rhyme that gets stuck in your head and that you're going to remember.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Now with this album, I really just want to entertain people,
Hmm.
like in an ADHD sort of way, almost like where you have to be paying attention and you have to be engaged. Otherwise, you're going to miss what is going on here. And I think that we've always in some songs had certain elements of that. We've always nodded to our influences and try and like we'll go more off the rails sometimes with certain songs than others. But I think like really doing our due diligence this time around with our next LP and trying to write songs um that don't ramble, that don't have a lot of extra nonsense in them, that are very direct and very straight to the point, um but also are just packed with content. You're not, there's not really a whole lot of time where you're just establishing a groove or like establishing a tonality, or just like, okay, dude, like we heard the riff one time, we get it. Like you don't need to do it four times. It's a good riff. And
Yeah.
kind of learning how to edit yourself
Mhm.
and how to power pack your music with just like a ton of content and a ton of musicality. And I think that that's something that we've never consciously tried to do before. It was more of like uh a self expression type thing, like just wanting to have a space and wanting to have a voice in this space and wanting to contribute. And um it feels really good, and we talk about it a lot. We feel like really fortunate to like have had the experiences that we have and have it be like have it be informing this kind of like zone that we're landing in now. And it's really cool and really neat. And I can't tell y'all how awesome it is to like have four people like kind of independently come to that conclusion like on their own, and like how good that feels when you like realize that like everybody's kind of like on that same vibe and feeling the same thing. It's
Yeah.
really cool and really exciting. So I think that we're doing this tour in February, which is going to be really fun. Or not February, in March. That's going to be really fun. That's going to be really cool. We're really looking forward to it. And then after that, like our goal is really just like put our nose to the grindstone and finish up, whatever demos we have and start thinking about where we want to make the next album and who we want to make it with and when it might come out and stuff like that, which is cool. And we feel ahead of the curve too. Like we already have like tons of demos, we have tons of songs in the pipeline, which is really, really exciting.
Hell yeah.
Shit, you're hyping it up.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see what you guys are working on. Yeah.
Me too. I can't wait. It's honestly like the kind of the worst part is like just like knowing that you're sitting and again, it's not even so much that like I think other people are gonna love these songs like more than they loved Sweet Tooth or Puppy Love. I'm just like, these are the coolest songs that I think I've ever written. These are the coolest songs that I think we've ever written. I just can't wait to share
To
that
drop
with
'em.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's exciting.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. All
Very
right.
stoked.
And before you say too much and get us in trouble, we're gonna switch back. uh, I want you to describe your newest album in 3 words for new listeners, as quick as you can.
Acoustic,
Okay.
chill,
Okay.
pretty.
Pretty.
Nice.
That was
Yeah.
the goal. Acoustic, chill, pretty.
Yeah.
That's
Fuck
good.
yeah. Achieved.
So can you talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this record, positive or negative?
There isn't really like one moment that particularly, well, actually, there's like a handful of moments. There's something really special that happens with this band in particular. There's like a moment that I live for. Austin, he's our drummer. Uh, Fantastic vocalist, but like drums is like mainly what he does in this band. He also happens to be a fantastic guitar player and a fantastic songwriter. And he kind of downplays it. And we've had moments, and we had a couple of moments during the Bear Market recording process where, the drums are recorded, they've been recorded maybe for days or hours at this point. Austin's in the corner, he's chilling, drinking his coffee, hitting the vape, just waiting until, it's his turn to do something again.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, we'll just hear him be like, "Hey, stop! You go back real quick," and he'll walk over and be like, "Can I have the guitar?" And he'll just sit down and just like Tie Dye was one of those moments where like actually it didn't even happen in the studio. Like he just sent us the demo for Tie Dye, and it was.
Hmm.
I think we actually used a lot of the same tracks that he actually did in the demo in the actual recording of the song. Like
Oh.
we used some of his backing vocals, we used some of his drum samples, we used some of the guitar tracks because it sounded so raw and good. He just sent it to the band, and we were like, "Dude, what in the hell? Like you just made this?
Mhm.
You just made this on? You just went home one night and started
Just came
cooking?
out of you.
Yeah, like
Pull it
what
out of your
the
ass.
like?
Yeah.
How dare you? Like." So there was a couple moments like that, and then like in the studio where he would just walk over, like, and this has happened with every record that we've ever made, but it's like I'll be struggling with trying to, figure out what guitar riff I might want to play, or struggling with a chord voicing or something, and like I'll get there eventually. Like I'd figure it out. I'd punch my way through the brick wall eventually, but like homeboy will take the guitar out of my hands or like sit down at the keyboard or at the bass and just lay down one of the tastiest licks or one of the prettiest chord progressions you've ever heard out of nowhere and just like change the dynamic of the entire song. And it's like, oh, okay, well, like you just immediately did the best sounding thing on this song objectively. And it blows everything else that we just spent the last 5 hours doing out of the water. And so now we got to go back like
Yeah.
half frustration, half excitement, right? Like that was almost like the headspace. And so there was a lot of those moments where like Austin is kind of famous for that in our crew for doing that, for grabbing the guitar and just like, all right, here's the thing now. But honestly, everybody had a moment here or there. Recording through the entire process was just like, oh my God, dude, like you really just like went and added that like Fountains of Wayne style harmony that like never imagined hearing in the song. And now I just want to go back and change all the backing vocals, and I just want to do them all like that now. Or you just added this one layer of like electric guitar, just ringing out chords or whatever, and it brought everything together. And now we just have to go back, and maybe that's why we kept cooking so hard on all of these songs, because it just kept happening.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, and then you add, we have Matt Yanko from Just Friends. He's our guitar tech, and like he was recording with us too, and so like he was guilty of that as well. He'd come in, like throw something down. It's like, oh my gosh, man, no, now we got to do that.
Yeah.
So that was
Gotcha.
my favorite thing that kept happening.
Yeah, I like that.
Hell yeah.
I like that the questions like challenging or stand out, and the census is everybody's just too fucking good. Everyone
Yeah.
around you is
It's
just
pissing
too
me off.
fucking good.
It's frustrating sometimes, like these fools. But hey, I love them. They're
Exactly.
awesome.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a good thing to be frustrated about as
Mhm.
well. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm very in awe of like my friends who are super, super talented. I'm sure you both have people in your lives that you feel the same way about. And it's just like,
Yeah.
damn, dude, you're just my homie and you like did that.
It's fucking
I
crazy.
gotta
Yeah.
step my game up.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're making me look bad.
For real.
Yeah.
Shoot, dude, like I'm supposed to be the guy that writes the lyrics, bro. Like, why are you over here making me look bad? Like,
Yeah.
all
Damn.
right.
So we spoke about tour earlier.
Mhm.
It's coming up. What
is
should
coming up.
fans expect? Should they expect the new versions of these songs being played live? Should they?
No,
Oh,
not at all.
shaking your head. All right, tell me what should we look for?
Same thing that we've always. So I think this tour that we're on now, even though we put out Bear Market, it's kind of an extension of the Sweet Tooth tour that we went on last year. It feels like, I don't think any album has a definitive end to its cycle, right? But it feels like we're kind of rounding third when it comes to what we've been able to do and present with Sweet Tooth as a project. And this is kind of like our last hurrah for Sweet Tooth on this tour. Like we're gonna be playing a lot of the Sweet Tooth songs, handful of Best Bud songs, handful of Puppy Love songs, like we always do. We're probably gonna play Alameda County Fair because we've been really liking that song, and
Good.
it wasn't on Bear Market, and similar to a lot of our recordings, like I think the way we play it live sounds even more badass than the recording does. But for the most part, like I think people who have seen us before and like know what our live show is pretty much about, they can expect the same thing. I will say we're going a little more out of pocket with like the costume party situation that Bart is cooking up right now. I don't know. I'll be real with you. There's a certain amount of like insecurity when you start to play some big rooms. Like, don't get me wrong. Again, we're very fortunate. We're very grateful. Like, getting to play the Fox Theater in Oakland like has been a dream. Like
Yeah.
since we started playing music in the Bay Area, to play somewhere like Hollywood Palladium, to play somewhere like the Fillmore in Philadelphia, to play somewhere like the Palladium in Worcester. It's truly an honor. Like I cannot, I'm not exaggerating. Like there's some of the best places to play music that exist in the world. They're like some of the best venues. And but it's a little scary. It's a little
Yeah.
scary when someone tells you that there's like 3,700 tickets available,
And your
you're
name's on the marquee for that night.
yeah, and you're like,
Like,
oh,
It's all
Oh,
on
boy.
me. It's all on me. Oh shit.
oh boy, for sure. So there's a little bit of we've been really trying to not just try to ride on our own coattails and ride on our own past successes, like we're trying to take accountability for the fact that it's like, okay, we're playing the biggest rooms that we've ever played in all of these places. And a lot of these places are places that we haven't played in a while. Like it's been forever since we've played Long Island. It's been forever since we've played Buffalo. It's been, excuse me, a really, really long time since we've headlined Pittsburgh. It's been a really, really long time since we played the Pacific Northwest. And like sometimes that works in your favor where people are clamoring at the gates, but sometimes it doesn't, because people who don't feel appreciated and don't feel invested in aren't necessarily going to be cheering for you on your big day. So I think that we are trying to like do our due diligence and outwardly show, not just with our words, but like with our actions, that like we are trying to make this tour as fun as humanly possible for every single person that comes to this show. Like I want to see people in pirate costumes in Tampa. I want to see people in full jout fits. I want to see the squads of like 10 friends mobbing in wearing the matching tracksuit at the Hollywood Palladium and all taking pictures. Like
Yeah.
we've thrown around the idea of like maybe having actually like a costume contest, like at each show, actually picking a winner
Uh-huh.
and like giving them like a trophy and a t-shirt that's like I went to the Mom Jeans show and all I got, like I won the costume contest and all I got was this t-shirt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
Something like that because it's just I don't know, like it is about the music. Obviously we are there for the music, but this band has, even for us, like it's become something so much more than just that. Like I really hope that our shows are as much for other people as they are for me, like a place to be yourself and just like have fun. And like we're all smart, intelligent people who are responsible. Like you know how to have fun without hurting other people. You know how to have fun
Mhm.
without negatively impacting other people. And it's like as long as we all show up and do that, there's no cap to how much fun can be had in
Hell
this
yeah.
building tonight. And that's like what I want people to come to our shows, knowing that it's like if I just come with a good attitude and I come ready to have some fun, like there is no limit to the amount of fun I can have, to the amount of friends that I can make, to the number of songs that get played tonight that I can like. Like there's
Mhm.
no limit.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really, really exciting in a again like a post-COVID world where people have to be so conscientious and so picky and so choosy about like where they put their money and about like where they invest their time because like nobody has endless resources and nobody has like a totally empty schedule. Like we all have to pick and choose which shows we go to and whether and like that's true for everybody. Like I can't go to every single show that I want to go to. And that's just realistic and we're trying to like I said, at least do our due diligence and like let people know to the best of our abilities that like we promise you like it's gonna be fun if you come through. And they can't make it because of work or because of weather, because of the train. They aren't coming because they aren't not coming because they're not sure if they're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all that I want. If you're not coming because you don't care for our music, or you're physically incapable, I can make my peace with that. But
Yeah.
I don't want you not coming because you're not sure if you're gonna have fun and be welcomed.
Hell yeah. Well, I'll
Oh.
see you in Jersey. Fucking raging.
Hell yeah! I
Yeah, let's
think
go.
I really want to do like the Tony Soprano outfit, like where he's in the tracksuit, or so not the tracksuit, where he's in the house coat with just
Mhm.
the gold chain and the tank top. That's like
Yeah.
kind of what I'm thinking, and I've been pushing that for Jersey, but we'll have to look at the data and we'll have to read through the comments and see what people are saying.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna try and see you in Richmond. It's just what fucking everyone's touring in March, and it's kind of throwing me for a
Yeah,
loop.
I mean, and
It's
they're
fucking
all
insane.
good tours too. Like what that Military Gun Pool Kids tour like looks
Hmm.
insane. I'm like that. Like they just announced that Spanish love songs like Oso Oso tour. Like that looks insane. There's a lot of freaking stuff going on. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
absolutely.
yeah, I hope to see you there. Hit me up if you need a guest list spot or anything. Got you.
Appreciate it.
I
Yeah,
already got my tickets. My girlfriend's a huge Mom Jeans fan, so they went on sale and I had to buy them. You know.
Oh, for sure. You're doing the Lord's work over there, bro.
Yeah.
Respect.
yeah.
For the last couple questions, going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
Totally.
So, if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
This is crazy. I was just watching Gordon Ramsay eats his last meal on YouTube right before this.
Fucking love
And
Gordon Ramsay.
that's a tough one to say. Like, can I have multiple things, or is it just like one item?
Go
Sure. We
for
have
it.
no
Like,
rules here except that you're
Yeah,
dying.
for sure. I
exactly. That's
think
it.
I think like sushi of some kind, and if I can get real specific, it would just be like salmon and tuna nigiri, and
Ooh,
like a
damn.
shitload of that.
Mm,
Um, that would be fantastic. That would be one of the items. An In-N-Out double double with extra
mhm,
cheese, extra pickles, and no other vegetables. That would be my second thing with animal fries, of course.
mhm,
That would be my second item. And then a really good burrito
mhm.
from a truck. That would be my only stipulation. It's got to be from a truck.
Okay.
From a truck.
And like, yeah, I feel like that gets my bases covered, and I would be like, all right, I lived a good life.
All right. And what drink
Solid.
are you having with that?
Oh, the drink. That's true.
Don't forget.
Honestly,
Important
Coca-Cola. I've been
Hmm.
like maybe I'm a slave to the corporate conglomerate at this point, but like there's something about a crisp Coca-Cola whenever you're just going to town on some nummies that really hits the spot.
Nice.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Well, yeah. So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Okay.
What is your favorite color?
I feel like I shouldn't have to think this hard,
Yeah, I'm like,
right?
you're
It
in
should
deep thought. I don't know if you're playing into it or if you
it
genuinely
should
don't
be
know.
It's a
or
big question. Come
yeah,
on.
I'm gonna say green. I
Green?
default to green a
Wouldn't have
lot, like
guessed.
forest green. If I
Mhm.
can be real specific, forest green
Yeah.
is always a good color. You can't go wrong
Yeah.
with forest green.
All right,
Solid.
we'll take it.
Alright. Yeah.
So, as Gloria said, that's all the questions you have to say. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Is there anything that I would like to plug? Let's see. We are old guys approaching our 30s that are trying to figure out how TikTok works. So if anybody listening to this wants to follow us on TikTok, that would be extremely appreciated. Um, I want to shout out the other members of my band real quick. Austin, Sam, and Bart. Our managers, Brad and Joel. Like we're an amazing group of individuals who work really hard to try and take care of each other, and we're really proud of that. So I want to shout out all my boys for that. And yeah, nothing. I guess I just want to say thank you for responding to my email and reaching out and for being open to this. I've had the experience of doing a lot of different kind of like PR stuff in like the last few years, between, like interviews and phone calls and Zoom calls and podcasts and everything in between. And I think, at least for me, I've realized that this is a setting that I really enjoy talking to people in. I feel
Yeah.
like I can be the most myself. I feel like I actually get to make a couple new friends every time I do
Mhm.
it. And you know, to be selfish, like I just I like getting to interact with people in a way that makes, me feel good and makes me excited. And so I appreciate y'all for doing that and for making the time to talk to me. I know it's easier said than done. So yeah, and good luck to y'all with everything with the
Of course.
podcast
Thank you.
future.
Glad
Absolutely. Thank
glad
I'm
you.
a
we
fan
finally
and
got
I'm
to
gonna
chat with
keep
you.
listening too.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Glad
Yeah.
we finally got to chat. This has been an interview we've been wanting to do for a very long time. So I'm glad
Years,
yeah.
that I stumbled across a tweet and we made this happen.
Yeah, me
Absolutely.
too.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But, and because we have 2 minutes left, I gotta fucking ask you. You want to talk about Sopranos? How do you feel
Yes.
about fucking Tony killing Christopher?
Yeah, Christopher was a loose cannon. He
It had to be
needed
done.
it had to be done.
Hmm.
I think that I'll say this, The Sopranos is one of the best shows on television because it manages to make you sympathize and
Hmm.
empathize with people and characters that you normally never should or ever would empathize and sympathize with. And I think that that is proof of the character building and the
Hmm.
proof of the writing of the show. And like, I think that's really what the show is about. It's an experiment of humanizing true sociopaths and showing us as consumers that like we can honestly believe anybody and fall in love with any type of character as long as we see ourselves in them. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn
All
right. Perfect.
Well, thank you for now. It's been Eric from Mom Jeans, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.